The Red Sea. January 30, 2026. A night that would test American naval supremacy like never before. What you're about to witness isn't just another military engagement, it's the moment when decades of tension between superpowers exploded into a technological deathmatch that had the entire world holding its breath. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered what happens when a billion-dollar warship faces an enemy that's learned to fight smart instead of fair? Drop a comment below because this story will change how you see modern warfare forever. Hit that subscribe button, because what happened next in those dark waters reveals secrets the Pentagon hoped would stay classified. At 0214 hours, the Combat Information Center of the USS Delbert Black erupted in chaos. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen stared at her radar screen, and what she saw made her blood run cold. 28 contacts. No, wait, the number kept climbing. 32 low-flying threats, all converging on their position from the Yemeni coastline. But here's what terrified her most. The attack pattern was unlike anything in American naval databases. These weren't random drone strikes. This was choreographed, calculated, surgical, multiple inbound. Estimate 4 minutes to impact. Her voice cut through the tension. The Aegis system struggled to process the swarm, each target weaving, adapting, communicating with each other in real time. This wasn't supposed to be possible. Not from Iran. Not from Yemen. Then the second alarm screamed to life. 2 hypersonic signatures. High atmosphere. Descending fast. The captain's face went pale. Those are FAD-A2s. How the hell did they get hypersonics? Here's a question for you watching right now. Did you know that Iran wasn't supposed to have this technology? Comment Russia if you can guess where they got it. Because that's exactly what intelligence would later confirm. 6 months earlier, 3 Russian cargo planes had landed in Tehran under the cover of darkness. On board, next-generation guidance systems, AI-enabled swarm controllers, and technical advisors who'd been training Revolutionary Guard units on tactics specifically designed to overwhelm American defenses. Moscow hadn't just sold weapons. They'd handed Iran the playbook to kill a U.S. destroyer. The commanding officer, Captain Marcus Wade, had 40 seconds to make a decision that would determine whether 290 sailors went home alive or became names on a memorial wall. Weapons free. Engage auto special mode. The ship transformed into something beyond human control, a machine making life and death decisions at computer speed. The Mark 41 vertical launch cells exploded open. Missiles screamed into the night, 10 ESSM interceptors racing toward the drone swarm at Mach 4. On the surface, it looked like American technological superiority in action. But in the Combat Information Center, a different story was unfolding. Each $3. 2 million missile took down one $8,000 drone. The math was brutal. Iran was bleeding America's arsenal dry without firing a shot at the ship itself. Magazine status? Captain Wade demanded. Sir, we've expended 35% of primary air defense. At this rate. I know the rate, Lieutenant. Just keep them off us. A higher altitude battle was even more desperate. To stop the hypersonic missiles, the Aegis computer launched 4 SM-6 interceptors, the Navy's crown jewel. $18 million per missile. $72 million in 10 seconds. The sky lit up like daylight as interceptors met their targets. Debris rained down, glowing red-hot as it hit the water. For a moment, silence. Victory! Then the sonar operator's voice shattered the relief. New contacts. Surface level. Multiple high-speed movers, count 20 plus. Let me ask you something. If you were the captain, and you just burned through half your ammunition, what would you do when the second wave hits? Think about that. They came from the darkness like a pack of mechanical wolves. Unmanned surface vessels, suicide boats packed with explosives, racing toward the Delbert Black at 50 knots. But these weren't the crude speedboats of previous conflicts. These were sophisticated, AI-driven hunters. Russian technology again. Every time the ship's guns locked on, the boats would scatter, regroup, adapt. The Phalanx CIWS roared to life, its Gatling barrels spinning at inhuman speeds, creating a wall of tungsten death. One boat disintegrated. Then another. But for every boat destroyed, 3 more closed in. They're learning our firing patterns, the weapons officer shouted. They're using machine learning to predict our. The sentence died as a Nord cruise missile broke the radar horizon. 3 meters above the waves. Subsonic but nearly invisible. Another Russian gift to Iran. Captain Wade faced an impossible choice: focus on the boats and die to the cruise missile, or engage the missile and let the boats through. He chose neither. Activate Helios. Now. What happened next was classified until 3 days ago. The high-energy laser system, Helios, had been secretly installed during the Delbert Black's last maintenance cycle. 60 kilowatts of directed energy. No ammunition to run out of. No reload time. Just pure, silent, instant devastation. An invisible beam lanced out across the water. The lead suicide boat's optical sensors exploded. Blinded, it spun in confused circles before its motor seized. Another beam. Another boat disabled. The Nord cruise missile, now just kilometers away, became the primary target. The laser locked onto its guidance system. Temperature spiked to 3,000 degrees in milliseconds. The missile's control surfaces melted, and it cartwheeled into the sea. For those of you who don't believe this technology exists, it does. And you just watched it save 290 American lives. But saving the ship wasn't enough. Not anymore. 400 kilometers north, 2 F-35C Lightning IIs detached from their patrol route. Completely silent. Completely invisible to enemy radar. They weren't there to fight. They were there to see. Using passive sensors, they located the heat signatures of the FAT-A2 launchers still glowing from their recent launch. The Revolutionary Guard crews were frantically breaking down equipment, trying to disappear before American retaliation arrived. They had no idea they were already dead. Via encrypted data link, targeting coordinates flowed directly to the Delbert Black's fire control computer. Captain Wade didn't hesitate. Fire mission. Full spread. 8 Tomahawk Block V cruise missiles erupted from the VLS cells. Low altitude. Terrain following. Impossible to intercept. 11 minutes later, in a valley that Russian advisors had promised was safe from American reach, the missiles arrived. Terminal guidance. Pinpoint accuracy. The Revolutionary Guards pride their hypersonic capability, their Russian trainers. Their hope of challenging American naval power turned to fire and scrap metal in seconds. Quick question before we continue: do you think this response was justified, or did America go too far? Let me know in the comments. As dawn broke over the Red Sea, the USS Delbert Black still held its position. Scorched. Depleted. Battle damaged. But alive. On the horizon, 9 American warships appeared, led by the carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. They formed a steel wall around their wounded sister ship, a message written in floating firepower. In Moscow, analysts watched satellite feeds in silence. Their weapons had failed. Their tactics had failed. The American beast they tried to bleed had struck back with overwhelming force. In Tehran, emergency meetings convened. The supreme leader faced a question no one wanted to ask: what happens when you test America's limits and discover they have none? President Trump's response came not in a tweet this time, but in action. Additional carrier strike groups were already en route. B-2 stealth bombers were being armed. The entire regional balance of power had shifted in one night. The Battle of January 30, 2026 lasted less than 20 minutes. But it answered questions that strategists had debated for decades. Could drone swarms overwhelm American defenses? No. Could Russian technology level the playing field? No. Could Iran challenge US naval supremacy? Not even close. But it also asked new questions. How long before the next test? How long before Russia gives Iran something that actually works? How long before this Cold War turns hot? Here's my final question for you: do you think we just witnessed the opening shots of World War III, or did this battle prevent one? Drop your answer below. If you want to understand what really happens when superpowers collide, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Because the next chapter of this story is already being written in classified briefing rooms across 3 continents. And trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. Stay sharp. Stay informed. And remember, in modern warfare, the scariest weapons are the ones you never see coming. But before you click away, we need to talk about what this battle truly represents. Because what you just witnessed wasn't just about drones versus destroyers or lasers versus missiles. This was a chess match between three superpowers, and the pieces on the board are far more dangerous than most people realize. Stick with me for 4 more minutes, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see the entire Middle East conflict. Let's start with the elephant in the room. Why would Russia risk arming Iran to attack a US warship? The answer is brutally simple. Moscow is conducting a live-fire experiment using Iranian forces as their laboratory rats. Think about it. Every drone that got shot down? That's data. Every interception? That's intelligence on American response times, missile performance, and defensive weaknesses. Russia didn't expect Iran to win this battle. They expected Iran to test American capabilities. And here's the terrifying part, they got exactly what they wanted. Right now, in a bunker somewhere outside Moscow, Russian military analysts are studying every millisecond of this engagement. They're calculating how many drones it would take to overwhelm a US carrier group. They're measuring how quickly American magazines deplete. They're identifying the exact moment when billion-dollar technology becomes vulnerable. This wasn't about sinking one destroyer. This was about learning how to sink an entire fleet. Now ask yourself, if Russia knows our weaknesses, how long before China gets that same data? How long before North Korea? Before every adversary on the planet has a playbook on how to bleed American naval power dry? What's your take? Comment proxy war if you think Russia is using Iran as a testing ground. Now let's talk about Tehran's perspective, because their calculation was very different from Moscow's. Iran is trapped. Economic sanctions are crushing them. Their people are restless. Their regional influence is slipping. And they just watched Israel and Saudi Arabia normalize relations with American backing. So they made a desperate bet, bloody America's nose in front of the whole world. And maybe, just maybe, they could restore their reputation as a power that can't be pushed around. But here's what they miscalculated, modern warfare isn't about who throws the first punch. It's about who can sustain the fight. Iran used their best technology, their newest Russian toys, their most sophisticated tactics, and still failed to even damage a single American ship. Meanwhile, the US destroyed their launch sites, their command infrastructure, and their credibility in under 20 minutes. The message to every Iranian commander is now crystal clear: you can try. You will fail. And the price will be catastrophic. But there's a darker possibility that keeps Pentagon strategists up at night. What if Iran knew they would fail? What if this attack was designed to provoke an American overreaction that would unite the Muslim world against the US? Think about it, one dead American sailor, one sunken destroyer, and suddenly Iran becomes the victim instead of the aggressor. That's a geopolitical victory even if it's a military defeat. Fortunately, American restraint prevented that scenario. But how many more provocations can the US absorb before restraint becomes weakness? Question for you, do you think Iran will try again, or did this battle teach them a permanent lesson? Drop your prediction below. Final question, are we watching the decline of American naval dominance, or the birth of an even more lethal US military? I genuinely want to hear your perspective. This is the real story behind the headlines. This is the chess match that determines whether your children grow up in an American-led world order or something very different. If this analysis opened your eyes to something new, share this video. The algorithm buries content like this, so we need your help to spread the truth. And remember, in the new era of warfare, the most dangerous weapon isn't the one you can see. It's the one you never saw coming. Stay informed. Stay sharp. And I'll see you in the next one.